This morning I made a mistake that I've made many times, and then I learn my lesson, and then I make it again, and then I learn my lesson, which is about rushing and what happens for me when I rush. So this morning, as I was trying to get ready, I woke up kind of a restless night, had just this long list, not just of things that have to be done, but things that I want to do, things I want to read, things I want to watch, things I want to catch up on, things that I want to do, ways that I want to be spending my time and energy. And there's so many of them that there's not enough hours or energy in the day to do all of them. And so, I try to make every minute count as I'm rushing through, almost done getting ready, and I want to put things away, and I grab something that's still hot, that hasn't cooled off, and of course I burn my hand. The result, as you know, is that now I'm behind, right? Because now, from getting that burn, from rushing, I have to take more time. I move slower. I can't do the things that follow that as quickly. And this was, not a big deal. This was a mild burn. And yet it reminded me of the times that I've learned this at other points in my life where I rush, and then I'm creating so much stress in myself about feeling behind that I'm not getting where I'm going any faster, and in fact often getting there slower because now I'm feeling sick, I'm feeling ill, my stomach's hurting, I get a headache. And most of those things I've found ways to manage over time. The same thing applies when we're talking about ways to really make a difference in the world. When we want something to change, we want it yesterday, because once we're at the point where we have our eyes open to the things that we want to be different, whether it's a personal change or a relationship change or a change in our community and the world around us, once we know this needs to be different, this is so important for this to change, I can't stand it this way anymore, I don't want to see this happen one more time, then we want it done. And what we end up doing is thinking that we're rushing towards the fastest result and getting in our own way or someone else's way, and actually taking longer instead. So I think about this: if somebody wants to be able to run a marathon, or maybe not even a marathon, if somebody even wants to be able to run a 5K, and they just start out sprinting because they want that result, they want to cross that 5K finish line, they want to be able to say, yes, I did it. But sprinting isn't going to be the fastest way, right? Because you get an injury, or you get a cramp, or you're out of shape, you're not ready for that yet. We might rush to show that we understand what somebody's saying, and as we rush in, we are interrupting them because we're so eager to show that we want it to be different, and that we want it to be changed, and that we understand. So every time we start rushing, we end up tripping ourselves up or tripping up somebody else. We rush to show our understanding, and instead we're finishing somebody's sentence with something that wasn't even what they were going to say. And now it actually takes longer. It's the same that I see with people wanting to learn or grow in therapy, right? When I'm helping people in self-help books, one of the things that I say every time I'm suggesting a book is take your time with this. Read a few pages, digest it, process it, practice it. Go over it again if you want to. Because somebody who's going to rush cover to cover might finish the book fastest, but they won't necessarily have been the quickest to be able to really internalize and adapt and grow from whatever they just ingested at that speed. And so, this morning as I burned my hand in my rush, I thought about how important that is with social justice advocacy as well, with efforts that we want to make for racial justice. And I'll be honest, this is something that I really, really feel a push and pull around, because in some ways, and I see people doing it, and I completely understand We want to just say, you can't do it this way. This needs to change. You need to change it now. Don't think that way. Don't talk that way. Don't look at the world that way. Change the laws, change the structures, and we know it needs to change. And once we know it needs to change, we want it done. And we want to rush to make other people aware of that too. And yet, I see the reactions to that. I see the people leaving the conversations. I see people shutting down. I see people closing off. I see people, even people that started out wanting to be a part of it, getting trapped in a shame cycle, a really toxic shame cycle, or guilt, or overwhelm, or burnout, and feeling like they just can't do it. They can't think about it. It's too heavy. It's too hard. And it's not fair. It's not fair that some of us can step away from it and some people cannot. And every time I'm struggling with that tension in how I approach things, am I soft pedaling? Am I making it too gentle? Is what I'm doing actually making it take longer? I come back to the research and to what I know about how people change, how people look at the world in a new way, how people learn to do something different, and what helps that process and what hurts that process. And we know that when people go into fight, flight, and freeze, when people shut down, when people close in, that it's going to take longer. It's going to take longer for us in our individual efforts to change if we shame ourselves, criticize, and judge ourselves so much for the mistakes that we're making, the things that we haven't learned yet, the things that we wish we had known 5, 10, 20, 50 years ago. And it's going to take longer in our conversations with others. And so, as much as I struggle with that tension, I keep landing back in the same place, which is if what I want is this change in the world, then the way to get there faster is not going to be to jump in everybody's face. The way to get there faster is going to be to form relationships, to connect, to understand, to build my tolerance and patience and pace so that I can not just run a sprint or even just a 5K, but so that I can stay engaged for the marathon. And that's what I hope for each of you too, is that you find that way, because we need a healthy stress. If we don't have enough stress, if we don't have enough of those emotions of tension or sadness or anger or frustration or hurt, then we're not doing anything. There's no motivation there. There's no impetus to change. The other side of that, the bell-shaped curve, is that if we're overstressed, if we get into unhealthy stress, then we're back on the couch in the same couch potato mode, just shut down and overwhelm. So finding that balance where we can say our feelings can help us to stay engaged and to stay motivated, to not give up on the process or the conversations or the learning or the opportunities to participate in creating systemic change, to go out of our comfort zone, but also not to go so far towards rushing and sprinting and trying to get there fastest that we thwart our own process and end up having so many deterrents, so many detours, so many delays along the way that it actually, what looks fastest, takes longer. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear how other people juggle this. Tell me in the comments or send me an email or a Facebook message. And I look forward to hearing from you. I always love to hear from you, whether publicly or privately. I thank you for your comments and for being here. You matter. You can make a difference. And I'm so thankful you're here.